For all your latest news and rumors of the UFC, go to thefullmountmma.com. Now back to the TFM Live podcast. Here's Brian Coyle and Sean Stanley. All right, we bring it back in here. Sean Stanley, Brian Coyle with you here. TFM Live, the official podcast of thefullmountmma.com. We discussed a little bit about the women's bantamweight division.
There
Wish
you
I
go.
could speak there. Hey, how about that?
It's late.
It is. And now I think we're going to dive in to UFC 201.
Yes, that would be the one that comes after UFC 200.
See, that's what happens when you have those bigger fights and then the UFC Chicago, you lose track.
Yes, you do. I want to talk about the main event of UFC 201. We'll talk about Rose Namajunas and Karolina Kowalczyk in a little bit. But, Sean, I'm watching the Rory McDonald Robbie Lawler fight on my train ride home, and it occurred to me. I mean, this isn't a light bulb moment where I'm figuring something out than everyone else. Robbie Lawler takes a lot of punishment. The most punishment I've ever seen from pretty much any champion fighter. It's a very interesting matchup that he has here against Tyron Woodley, who hasn't exactly been a guy that's gone the distance a lot, but some of his knockouts have been absolutely insane. His knockout of Josh Koscheck, where he just floored him, immediately comes to mind. When you look at this fight, which, I mean, some people will say, oh, it's 201 and Demetrius Johnson. But this is a fight you should watch for sure because you never miss Robbie Lawler fighting. How do you feel about this fight going into it? Because I have some eerie feelings about this. I want to get your take.
Well, I mean, they've trained together. At least in the same team, and you know, I've been listening since this fight was first brought up that it was going to be happening. That, you know, there's so much, like, I think Woodley even went and trained at another camp and things like this. And it's, I mean, I know Lawler is going to sit there and you're going to have to knock him out to get the title out of his hands. But,
it's really interesting because Lawler's the type of guy who takes so much punishment over and over and over again. And meanwhile, you have this guy in Woodley who hasn't fought in a while. He hasn't been able to, like, he was supposed to fight Johnny Hendricks back in October. That didn't happen because Hendricks had a very bad weight cut and dropped out of the fight. He showed up, did his thing, was all good to go. Then, like, he hasn't fought since January of 2015 against Kelvin Gastelum. That was a split decision. He's kind of just sat on the sidelines. He broke his foot. He hasn't. Some people say, like, there have been more deserving fighters for this, but he's waited around. He's getting his shot against Robbie Lawler now. And Lawler, for all the stuff, like, I feel like I've picked against Robbie Lawler every single time he's defended the belt. I picked against him when Roy McDonald was in it because I thought it was finally his time. He took a lot of punishment in that fight. But, man, he took the opportunity, crushed McDonald's face in, literally, till he couldn't take it anymore and knocked him out in the fifth round. A very close fight against Carlos Condit. And now he gets Woodley, and eventually you would think Lawler can't take all this punishment every single fight. Is Woodley the guy, in your opinion, that could take him down?
Yeah, 100%. I believe so.
Yeah, it's one of these interesting kind of situations where you know what you're going to get out of Robbie Lawler. He is this kind of guy who can avoid every single takedown that you throw at him. Because the sprawls against McDonald were absolutely incredible. It's something like all fight fans need to watch it. It's on the UFC YouTube page. You can watch that fight. It's an absolute war. But you see McDonald try to throw these takedowns in out of nowhere, and Lawler immediately drops it, sprawls, and is all good. I don't understand how he can continually do these things, because you would think taking all of this punishment, immediately getting trying to get taken down, getting these head kicks, especially in that McDonald fight, and Condit as well, throwing these razor-sharp elbows. You think a guy like that wouldn't be able to take all of it. But Lawler's the type of guy, he's been doing this for over 15 years at this point.
Yeah, but at some point it's going to catch up to you, right?
That's the thing I'm getting at here. Like, is Tyron Woodley the guy that gets him? Because we don't know exactly. Like,
I mean, they've worked out together, and I guess my thing is, like, how long have they been, quote unquote, like, teammates?
I mean, Lawler just obviously did not spend all of his time, like, in his, like, comeback. Mm-hmm. For example, like, he's been with American Top Team, but now, like, they don't train in the same gym all that often. They've kind of downplayed that whole teammate sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But, like, it's got a weird
when you're
fight
in the same kind of camps, like American Top Team, a lot of them travel around, so you're sparring with the same style, the same kind of people that he's sparring with. Maybe not at the same time or at same gyms.
Yeah.
But you're able to get guys that have sparred with him. Not saying they're Robbie Lawler by no means, but I think when you have that ability, Jose Aldo said, "I had spies. I knew exactly what he's doing." Imagine if you're in the same camp, team, or have that ability to know people that have worked with. Same goes both ways, too, now for Lawler, too, because he's probably going to spar people that have worked with Woodley. So they're going to know, at least have an idea of a lot of tendencies that they do. So it's going to be an interesting chess match. I just think, Robbie Lawler's always hungry. But Woodley, I think this time, he knows this might be his only time.
Yeah, because
and he needs to take advantage of it.
The way I look at this is, Mike Bowen of MMA Junkie put out some great statistics today. Lawler has absorbed 691 significant strikes in UFC competition since January 1st, 2013. He's absorbed 531 significant strikes in UFC championship fights. That's the most in UFC championship history. This guy takes a beating every single time, but he keeps coming. His takedown attempts in the UFC, he's completed 80% of them, the highest accuracy rate in the company history. Woodley is obviously got a wrestling background, but I don't know how useful it will be to him when he's got a guy like Lawler who can sprawl and wrestle with the best of them, and he'll try to get him into a war. Now, the thing with Woodley is he's got such incredible knockout power where it might be a little different this time around because McDonald wasn't a knockout artist. Condit wasn't as much of a knockout artist as you get with Woodley. Like, he gets so big following that weight cut. Like, he looks like a whole nother human being, it seems like. And I don't know if this is finally when the dam breaks. Who are you picking in this fight? If you had to choose, if we have to put it on the line, and I've checked the standings right now. I'm looking at it right in front of me. You're up 13. You're 13-5, and I'm 10-8. Since this is going back to UFC 198, where we're picking main event fights, co-main event fights, all of that nature. Who do you have in this UFC 201 main event bout?
It hurts me to say because I want Lawler to win, but I'm going with Woodley.
You're going with Woodley.
I'm going with Woodley.
Is it a particular feeling? Do you think this is finally
I just have this thing that, look, that punishment has got to take its toll. I mean, I understand he's one of the toughest guys, and you know what? He's been through wars and battles, and you have to sit there and you have to. But on top of all that, he still has to do training. These camps. At some point, your body, maybe you don't need that big hit anymore. Like, it might just be something small with all the punishment you've already taken can turn into a big thing, a big punch, a big comeback, and there you go. I mean, I just think Woodley is hungry.
Yep.
And I mean, I trust me, I know he's probably going to have to pry the belt out of Lawler's hands. He's going to have to win it because Lawler's probably not going to lose it.
No, that's for damn sure of the last couple of fights that we've seen out of Robbie Lawler.
Yep.
I'm going Lawler in this fight simply because I don't know if Woodley's the guy to do it. I haven't seen enough out of him where, like, because he's been out for a while. He hasn't fought since January of last year. It's a year and a half off. That's a lot of time. And Lawler's not going to be a guy that's going to force the issue on the ground. He's not going to want to wrestle with him as much as Woodley would probably like. And this is a 5-round championship fight. When you look at Tyron Woodley, his last couple fights, a third-round split decision win, a round 1 knockout, a third-round unanimous loss to Rory McDonald, a round 2 knockout of Carlos Condit, which was assisted by the fact that Condit's knee blew out. Josh Koscheck, we mentioned before, a round 1 knockout. Jake Shields, he lost a split decision victory. He's not a guy that's got a big gas tank. This is the first time he could possibly go in to the 4th and 5th rounds. And Lawler loves to draw this thing out.
I agree with that, but my thing is that if his camp, and I know he's got a good camp, they know what Lawler's going to do. So I would think that they've had him getting conditioned. And I understand it's a whole different ballgame when you're in there in the octagon and adrenaline and you're getting punched and kicked and everything else. But I have to think that they know this, that they know that he hasn't gone through all these wars like what Lawler has. And they know Lawler's going to kind of keep him at bay and try to, string out the fight and everything else. So I got to think that they've been working on that, and I just don't see that as being the knock on this fight.
To me, the longer this fight goes, the more it benefits Robbie Lawler. The shorter, I mean, if Woodley wants to come out swinging and try to knock out Lawler, go for it, because, I mean, I can't think of anybody with a tougher chin, possibly Nate Diaz, if you want to go that route, than Robbie Lawler has right now. The guy's like impenetrable, it seems like at this point. But then again, he's taken so much punishment over the years. Who knows what the heck could happen? And the way these fights have been going, like everything that we thought we knew just gets thrown out the window in the UFC. You mentioned earlier in the show, anybody can beat anybody. And I definitely don't want to discredit Woodley. I just think Lawler, this isn't the guy to knock off Lawler yet.